That's exactly how this would go. The first podcast back, dogs barking in the background. So, welcome back to the How Did We Get Here Health podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Derek Saunders, and Nicole is here with me, as is all three of her dogs. Um, they're barking in the background, so you guys
Yeah,
get the lovely joy of hearing us talk, and probably some dogs too. You also get to see us today. We're kind of
I
messing around with some
know.
new software, and hopefully we are back and being more consistent. And that's on me more than anything. I want to really take some blame for that. Nicole, you can you
But
get to skirt scot free on this one.
yeah, but like literally the last one we tried to record the echo because of my empty house across
Oh
the
yeah, yeah,
nation.
the move and everything. Yeah, so I mean, on that note, I bailed. I'll be really honest with anybody who's listening, and it wasn't anybody's fault. My wife had surgery. School was starting hectic. I think it was last September that we recorded and uploaded our last podcast, so it was just insanely busy. And my wife had a pretty rough recovery from surgery. It was like 12 to 16 weeks when it should have been 6. So it was just a lot. And then on my end, one of my kids had a one of my kids had a seizure over Christmas. Thankfully, he's okay, but that was really scary, and we've been dealing with that for a very long time. So, all that being said, back to some consistent recording. You guys should hear us on a more regular basis. We're going to try for once a week, but, you
Don't
know,
put a thing on that.
we're not putting any expectations out there. So, Nicole, how are
If
you?
there's no expectations, we can't ruin it.
That's the same. That's how I treat my fat loss goals. Oh man, it is nice to be back. I kind of actually wanted to talk about that today, about weight regain, about the struggles that all that can be, because Nicole and I both have long histories with struggles around weight, struggles around weight management, regain loss, all that fun stuff. So I think
Oh
that's kind
yeah.
of what we're going to talk about today. And I kind of want to be really transparent about my struggles over the last year and kind of where I'm at right now. So we'll dive into that. But I mean, yeah, we kind of always just maybe the not PC way to say this is we just kind of freeball these conversations anyway. So you guys just get the best of us.
I know.
Um,
We just wing it. Like
yeah, yeah, that's the best way to do it. But Nicole, how are you? How's everything been in your world?
good. And actually it's interesting that you said that because that's exactly what my last year has been. It's been the regain weight management thing
Yeah.
because we left California, we moved to New Jersey, um, 5 days of traveling with 2 cars, a U-Haul, 4 kids, and 4 dogs and 2 cats. That was my life. So
That's a
that
lot.
was my part of us not doing this. I had to recover. It took a
But
while.
I know from talking with you that part of that was intentional though too, right? Like I know one of the things that you've been working on is how do I live this life
Oh yeah.
without always having to go back to intentional dieting? How do I actually live a life that
Yes.
aligns with my values, with my goals, and
Well,
how do I navigate that, right?
yeah. Well, and the first thing of like this last year, so just as like military and the moves, that was my biggest fear was every time we moved, I gained 15 pounds. Never failed. Like
Yeah.
because I didn't have my normals, I then had to do takeout. I then had to navigate this. Maybe I couldn't do my workouts. Maybe I couldn't do, like I wasn't in my normal. So I was always gaining weight whenever we moved and I got real paranoid with this last one, but I was able to maintain it within like 5 pounds. And for us, that's huge
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that 1 to 3% of your body weight that moves every single day, like five
Yeah.
pounds is well within that. So I was good. Um, but yeah, when we got here, I I kind of got to this point where I was like, all right, I had done maintenance, I had done surplus, I had done those things. And then it was time to go back into a deficit because I wanted proof to myself, really. I didn't need to do it, but I wanted to prove to myself, as somebody who had always dealt with being morbidly obese, that I could do the body composition cycles. Like I could pull this off. It wouldn't be like a tragic fail and everything is burning around me. But so I tried to do a deficit in the middle of the move because that's the way my brain works. And that was a tragic fail after a week and a half because I got really emotional because we were buying a house, we were navigating stuff. So this is where we then say, like, this is what we don't do.
So what you're telling me is that trying to diet when life is absolutely chaos is generally not a good idea.
Not a good idea. And then when we got here and we were setting up the kids in school, oh my gosh, we got here, school started, and I think the last kid, we finally got them registered and into school 5 weeks after the school started because they wanted like this paperwork and we couldn't get the old school to send it. And they then wanted this vaccine and they wanted this. And so it took us 5 weeks to get all 4 kids into school. And then I was like, okay, perfect. They're all there. I went to the conference. I hung out with you for a little bit. And then I came back and I'm like, okay, deficit again. Right before Halloween. Genius. It didn't go so bad that time, but then I started to realize I needed a slower start because I had so much transition that I didn't even give myself time to establish a normal here before I tried to go into deficit. So all the things that I had previously done, you know, I know what to do, all of those things, they didn't fit here yet because I didn't, like, I couldn't find my crock pot. Like, so I had like a lot of those things happen. And then I was just like, all right, forget it. Here's another failure. Like, and that's where I went wrong. I was like, I quoted it as a failure. And so I'm like 2 deficits down and I haven't made it happen. It's this last one or bust. Like, this is, now we're kind of getting to that point of I'm putting my faith on this last one, like in my capability to do this. But I did. Made it happen. The day after Christmas, I dropped into a deficit. I told myself 12 weeks. Don't care. I don't care what the outcome is. I'm sticking to this for 12 weeks because I told myself I would. I made it all the way through. I dropped to like 8 or 9 pounds, which was my surplus range that I gave myself. And I dropped the weight. I came back out of it and I was like, good. I'm not doing that again. Like, I proved I could. Now I'm going to do powerlifting. Like, we're done.
Yeah. You know, I feel you on the failure aspect of things, especially like being in this industry and like knowing all the things. And this is a conversation I was having on Instagram on one of my posts because I had posted just last week about like my struggles. So, you know, tying into this, I've regained a big portion of the weight that I lost initially. So 12 years ago, again, like I'll give you guys the very TLDR of my story. You know, 12 years ago, I lost 100 pounds, 110 pounds in like 11 months. And I've maintained most of that weight loss for a very long time. I went from 325 or 330 down to around 210 at my lowest. And then I maintained around 230 for like a super long period of time. Up until probably 2 years ago where I kind of started seeing weight creep back up, and that was kids, lifestyle, working a sedentary job comparatively to when I was a mechanic and on my feet all day. And then this last year was just very, very hectic, and I ended up right around the 300-pound mark again. And I'm a big dude, like I'm 6'3". Anybody who's been around me is always like, holy crap, Andre the Giant. And so... And like I have to give myself some credit. I'm a different 300 pounds than I was when I was 330. Like I've got a way different body composition. I don't look like I'm 300 pounds, but it doesn't change the fact that all the health concerns that happened when I was 330 were starting to creep back up. You know, higher blood pressure, uh, higher triglycerides, like high cholesterol. All those things were kind of starting to creep back up, and that was kind of what got me to a place where I'm just like, man, I am failing at all of this, and it's really difficult to be in that place when you, damn mailman, um, it's really
This
difficult to
does
be in
not
that place
help
when,
people with ADHD.
like, oh, squirrel, literally, right? No, it's difficult to be in that place because, as like fitness professionals, we know what to do. Like, I understand I need to be in a calorie deficit. I understand like how to set up my food environment for success. I understand like how to walk and exercise. I know all the things. It doesn't change that it's very difficult to implement, and like how hopeless it can feel when you're kind of in the throes of it. And in my like last Instagram post, I had somebody comment on it that just said like, how do you get over that guilt of the weight gain, especially when you're a fitness professional and you know what to do? And that's something that I had to kind of think about before I responded to them, because I still struggle with that. Like, truthfully, I still feel guilty and feel like I've failed and like that I'm an imposter because like I've regained this weight. But really, I'm just a human being who's dealing with like lifelong struggles with my weight. And the thing that I said to this person, and something that I have to remind myself of, is the more that I tried to hide my weight gain, the more that I tried to ignore it, the more that I tried to like cover it up and like not be a human, the more I felt bad about it. Rather than just saying like, yeah, I mean, fuck it, I'm human. Like, I'm dealing with all these real struggles that contribute to weight gain, and here's my story to the world. How can I make changes now? And that's kind of what got me fired back up this last round, to just go like, you know what? It's not really about whether I failed or any of those things. It's just about actually finding a way to move forwards this time in a way
Yeah.
that genuinely aligns with my values and aligns with who I want to be both now and in the future. And that's something that I've been working really hard at, to try and identify those things. Like, what are my actual values and how do those align with my goals? How can I, and I don't like using this like cliche aspect of like, what is your why? Why are you doing this? But like, you kind of have to fall back on that sometimes. Like, how can I find, how can I integrate those values into my why? And a really cool thing happened a few weeks ago was I was getting ready to go to the gym. Kiddo was asking me if she could come, and that was where I was like, oh man, like that just tied into it, because my 7-year-old was like, hey, when can I start coming to the gym with you? And the next day she was like, hey, are you going to the gym today? I want you to be able to rock me when I'm older, because I rock my 7-year-old to bed, and she's a gigantic
Aww.
7-year-old because I'm a gigantic human being. And like all these things kind of started clicking, and like realigning with my focus on why I'm doing all of this and why I want to be healthy and why I want to be around for my family. Why should I do cardio even though I fucking hate it? And and I think it's really easy to get caught up in that guilt. And this is circling back to the point, because we both have
Yeah.
ADHD, and here's us playing the circle game. My point of all of this is, if it's so easy to get like wrapped up in that guilt of not doing the things and like being like, oh, I'm a failure, oh, I'm a loser, like all that negative self-talk that comes with it, instead of stepping back and just going, yeah, I'm a human being. These are real struggles. Who do I need to talk
Yeah.
to find help with them? How can I better align these with my actual values? What are the actual steps that I need to take right now? Like, what's the one thing that I can do that's going to move the needle so that I can
Right.
start making progress and feel good about it? So,
Yeah. See, like my things now, it's a totally different ball game, because like when I started because like the kids, I didn't want to mess up their nutrition the way, and I didn't
yeah,
know enough to not mess it up. Like I
yeah,
have no idea what I'm doing here. Like we're just all winging it. But now I've got the really cool why now. I overheard my son smack talking about how his mom could deadlift more than that. And I'm like, I have reached new levels.
That is awesome.
I'm like, I will continue because I am now part of the teenagers. Like, oh yeah, well, my mom.
My mom could beat up your mom. I
And
love
I'm
that.
like, you know
I
what?
love that.
This is the why of everything.
No, you know what though, I feel the same way about the whole like not wrecking your kids with nutrition. And I mean, for anybody who's listening, and I know that most of the people that listen to our podcasts are women, and like I've exclusively coached women. I mean, I've coached
Yeah.
like 6 men, and they all suck at taking directions. Like, I mean, how many of you listening have tried to like get your husband to stop at the store and ask for directions to where you're going, and they're like, no, no, I'll figure it out, right? Like, women are just more coachable, and like that's a hill that I will die on. Um, sorry for any men who are listening to this, but this is true. Um, like all of those things start super early, and even like I remember in kindergarten, my kid was in kindergarten, and she came home and she was like, "Oh yeah, the teacher told us that we can't have too much sugar in our lunches," and I was like, "All right, let's have this conversation with my 4-year-old," and we started having to like reframe how we talk about foods in the house. Like we don't talk negatively about foods, but like when Robin, my daughter, would talk about things like that, we would have very open conversations about like how carbohydrates are great for your energy. They allow you to run around and play and
Yep.
go really, really fast in the backyard, and how protein helps build your muscles, and how fats are good for your skin, your hair, your nails, like all of those things.
Yeah.
And you know, the last little while, Robin would be like, "Oh yeah, I gotta have my chicken with my dinner because I need to get stronger," and she would like flex at the dinner table. And I
Aw.
want to get stronger so I can do the monkey bars because my kid fucking loves the monkey bars. Like she's this little CrossFit ninja warrior and it's amazing. And she doesn't do any of that stuff, right? She just plays on the playground. So we have to like really shift our focus on reframing those things with them because it's so impactful. And I
Oh
think
yeah.
that, and going back to the main point I'm trying to make is a lot of women who are listening to this, you've probably started dieting when you were really young. You probably heard all of these things from mom, books, teachers, like all of those things where food was vilified, body image was vilified, weight was vilified, like all of those things. And the more we can get ahead of it and have very like weight neutral conversations, have very this is what your body is capable conversations rather than like vilifying
Yeah.
these things.
Well,
Man,
and you know what? I was
eating
actually,
disorders.
yeah, well, and I was in a conversation actually earlier today, and we were talking about how, so, because I'm 43, so literally like that diet era, like the mentality.
Yeah,
And I grew up where my mom and my grandma, it was Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem, Atkins, like that
yeah,
was the nutrition information. But we were talking about not being able to figure out where, like, how to honor our body with a hunger or fullness cue.
yeah,
And I said, well, how are we ever supposed to? There are starving kids somewhere. You need to sit, and even though you're full, finish this plate. So as kids, we learned to turn off of our fullness signaling and not pay attention to it and keep eating because we can't
yeah,
leave the table. And then we were talking more, and I didn't even think about this, but it was about like the food timing of telling a kid, oh, you're not hungry right now. We're about to eat dinner in 2 hours. Like, you're not
yeah,
hungry. And then oh, well, okay. A parent just said I'm not hungry. And
yeah,
then you're waiting 2 hours, and then you're ravenous, and then you're overeating at dinner because you were so hungry before, and now you can't eat slow, so now you're eating and consuming and consuming. There's no wonder why we got to where we are by different little tiny things, little small things that were kind of implemented. And it wasn't our parents' fault. Like,
yeah. They're
just like
doing
I
the
said, I had no idea what I was doing. My mom and grandma had no
best.
idea either. Like, we
I
were
still
winging it.
I still don't know what I'm doing as a parent. One of my buddies just messaged
Oh,
me a couple days ago, and he's like, "Oh, dude, I'm having a kid." He's like, "I know you've got 3, so I'll have to pick your brain." And I was like, "I have zero good advice, just letting you know." Like, but no, I mean, you nailed it. and that's something that Bianca and I have both had to work on periodically. You know, it'll be like 4:30 and dinner's on the stove, and it's 5:30 is typically when dinner's ready. And my 4-year-old will be like, you can see that she's like getting hangry, and she gets hangry, very, very hangry. It's terrifying. And it's so easy to be like, no, no, like you can't have any snacks. Like dinner's almost ready. And as of like the last little while, we've just been like, okay, like what do you want that's pretty small? Like just something to tide you over so that you get some food. You're not like feeling starving because they have no sense of time. Like even like
Right.
like between 4 and 7, there's really no concept of time. If you ask a 4-year-old how long a minute is, they're like, oh, right? Like I
Also
have to
for
explain the
parents.
length of Paw Patrol episodes, and like it's 2 episodes of Bluey is how long you need to wait, and like they understand that, but
Yeah.
there's still no rationalization around it. So when you say to your 4-year-old, like dinner's ready in half an hour, you can wait, they are just like, no, I'm hungry now.
Yeah.
So it's like, here's a granola bar, here's some grapes, have a yogurt cup. And at the end of the day, if they get to their dinner and they don't eat everything on their plate, like who cares? Who
Right.
cares? Right? And it's such a better way to handle it. And I've already noticed big differences around that time, like 4:30, when we know Allie gets hungry. We just kind of go, "Hey, do you want a little quick snack before dinner?" "Oh yeah, no, good." And then she's way easier to deal with between 4:30 and 5:30, which is like typically witching hour here, and I think that's for most people.
That's why I was saying, like, wait, it's like a Twilight Zone for just kids? No, because I'm pretty sure, like, the minute they walk in the door until 7 or 8, I'm like, what's going on?
It's
Who
chaos.
has what project? Like,
Yeah, and I mean,
no, we have projects.
like all those things impacted you, they impacted me, and I know that because I dealt with the same stuff. And again, this is not a shot at my parents. They were doing the best that they can. And but the outcome of that is like it's led to a lot of struggles for me learning how to listen to my body, learning how to listen to hunger and satiety signaling, which for me sometimes is non-existent. And
Right.
that's one of the struggles that I face with managing my weight long term. And it's such an interesting comparison because Bianca can eat like literally like a tiny piece of chocolate off of like a Hershey bar and be completely satisfied. And I'm like, I need 2 Hershey's bars, and could you make me a s'more? And if we're still gonna go for tacos, I'm good, but can we stop and get popcorn on the way? Right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't have
I'm
that.
with you.
Yeah, I know. You and I are very similar. Like, I have to be very, very.
And I want a Choco
Careful.
Taco since you're
Yeah,
going to talk
that
about it
sounds
all.
really good. So this podcast is making me hungry, and I'm gonna go have to go eat
Like,
after.
not me, because I have caffeine.
I did bring a protein shake just in case. This is my comfort
See,
drink.
look, you're working on your appetite suppressant your way. I've got my way.
That's valid. Oh man.
Like I said, we still don't know what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, and I find it so hilarious. Like, I remember going to like business conferences and seeing like all these fit pros, but then you go for lunch with them and everybody eats like shit. And it's ironic because I watch people like lay people, general population. I mean that with zero offense. Sorry if that sounded rude.
Yeah.
You lay people, the mere peasants. All jokes aside, I see people put fitness professionals on a pedestal and go like, "Oh my God, you must never make mistakes. Like you must never struggle. Like you just have it all together." And I'm like, man, you do not see what happens on the backside, and social media is just that like tip of the iceberg.
I had somebody that I was in a grocery store line with. She asked me what I did for a living and this, that, the other. And then she looked at my grocery contents up and down, and I'm like, oh, I feel so judged right now. Like, leave my pizza rolls alone.
These are going straight to my belly.
I know, like, don't be angry that I can eat these pizza rolls and I'm still holding it together here.
Yeah. Well, and I
Maybe you
remember,
wouldn't be so judgy if you ate them too.
yeah, you'd feel better. Have you tried a pizza roll lately?
Oh,
No, and I remember like being at parties when I was younger and like first working on like my weight loss goals, and like I was a newer personal trainer, I was a newer nutritionist, all those things. And I'd go to like parties with my friends and they'd be like, I'd go over to the food table and they'd be like eating a chip with a bunch of guac and they'd be like, I'm like, dude, I literally do not care. In fact, please pass that bowl. I will eat some with you. Like, just because I'm a personal trainer and a nutritionist doesn't mean that I'm not going to eat this stuff periodically, right?
I am still going to hold tight to the nacho rule. If I grab one and 15 come up, I'm eating them. That
Yeah,
counts
and I
as
mean
one.
that's still one nacho. um, Kind of shifting back to like weight gain in itself.
Yeah.
I think an important statistic for anybody listening to realize if you're struggling with weight regain after dieting is that's completely normal.
Yeah.
Like 4 out of 5 people regain most of the, and I don't know if those are the actual stats, so please don't anybody come at me with science papers and shit. Let me rephrase that. A large portion of people who diet, no matter the modality or how they choose to diet, regain the weight. And a good portion of it and or more than they lost. So if you're struggling with weight regain like I have been, it's really important to remind yourself that you're not a failure for that reason. Like, it's completely normal to go through what you're going through. It's human nature. Like, that's the best way to put it. Like, weight loss is easier than maintaining it. Let's go with that first and foremost. Losing the weight is way easier than it is to maintain the weight loss. And if you are, again, gaining weight after dieting, you're part of the status quo. You're actually not you're not the unusual one. You're part of the norm.
Yeah.
So, and I think getting to a place where like you accept that and go, okay, it's actually completely normal to regain weight after dieting. Where can I make an honest assessment of the things that are causing me to regain the weight, and how can I adjust that in my next approach? Whether it's the fact that you lost weight with an unsustainable diet. Maybe you tried clean eating, and I'm not crapping on clean eating at all. Everybody should still eat some whole foods here and there, and a big portion of our diet should be all of that. I'm going to give some caveats here. But maybe you went too restrictive with things and you stopped including pizza rolls periodically, and then you fucking bought 17 boxes of pizza rolls and ate them in the parking lot. And, like, that's probably something you need to adjust,
Yeah.
Or perhaps you tried ketovore, which is carnivore and keto put together, which is crazy to me. But again, maybe you did that, cut out all carbs, and then you started
making sourdough.
Yeah, and then, started making sourdough, and you're like, wow, bread is fucking delicious. Yes, bread is fucking delicious. That's when we all need to step back and go, okay, instead of attaching some morality to this, instead of attaching guilt and like an emotional entanglement, going, okay, from an honest standpoint, what about this approach didn't work for me? What did?
Right.
Like, take the positives, go, what worked for me on it? I really liked the fact that I could eat a lot of protein and meat. Okay. So with your next approach, you probably need to base a lot of your meals around protein and meat. Cool. I didn't like that I couldn't have a fucking donut. Okay, well then we need to figure out how you can add donuts into your diet and still make progress, Well,
and I think a lot of times everybody looks at the bread as the failure, or the diet as the failure, instead of looking at everything as the whole. Because the bread isn't the obstacle, the diet wasn't. It's just, you like both things. Both things worked at a point in time. And that's kind of like where some of those different conversations I've had recently have come up. Because people have said, they're like, oh man, keto was so good. Like my fat loss happened so quickly, this, that, the other. And then I had to transition off, and then this is what happened in life. And like, they just started talking about different things. And I'm like, okay, cool. In that transition, what was the best things? In the diet, what was the best things? So kind of like what you're saying, but reflect on everything. Like, if you move to a place where suddenly your work is a block from the best donuts that ever existed, please tell me you're going to find a way to include those.
Yeah.
Like, don't exclude that. That's just mean.
Yeah.
But that's one of the other conversations that I've had a lot is everyone was like, I just don't understand. Why can't I drop back into keto again? And I'm like, because you're around the corner from the best donuts that ever existed. That temptation wasn't there before. And now you've had it and you know what that is. Why not just include that instead of going back to that hard set way of doing it?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, for most people, if we think about this from a logistical standpoint, like, again, taking some emotion out of this, I worked with 1,000 clients-ish, and I've had 5 clients, literally only 5 out of 1,000 women who I've worked with who have actually needed less than 1,300 calories to make progress. So even if you are a smaller woman who is working on the last 5 or 10 pounds and you don't move very much outside of, maybe your gym workouts, but you have a sedentary job and you do need low calories, even if you had 2 or 3 very volume focused meals, so, chicken or lean protein sourced veggies, you can still fit 300 calories a day in to a 1,300 calorie diet and have 300-ish calorie meals. You can still do that every single day. It takes a little bit of planning, but that planning and the effort of that, which sometimes feels daunting initially, is actually easier than it is to constantly choose to restrict your nutrition and constantly choose to go, nah, fuck the donut, like, I'm gonna just grit through this. And I also swear, everybody, so you guys will just have to deal with that. I'm gonna be unapologetically myself. But it's easier to plan that in. And when we look at like the actual numbers that most people make progress on, which is between 1,500 and 2,000 calories for most people, that makes it even easier to fit those types of things in. The problem
Yep.
that we see is when people go and they go and moralize these choices and go, oh, well, like, I fucked this up. I shouldn't have eaten that donut. Now I feel guilty and I've ruined my day, even though it probably did fit. You just didn't track it
Yeah.
because you felt bad about it. Screw it, I'll get back on track tomorrow. And then you eat everything else in the house. You eat all the stuff that you've been avoiding because you don't have inclusiveness, whatever that word is. You know what I'm trying to.
Yeah.
You're not inclusive. You don't take an inclusive approach to your dieting.
Yeah. That works.
That's the one I was looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. Trying to exclude everything under the sun and just living that life. I'm a miserable person. I've actually had clients beg me to not be in a deficit. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I think I did it again. They're like, I
Oh,
like you so much when you're in maintenance. I'm like, oh, my bad.
yeah. Looking at
Okay.
somebody's food logs must be fucking nice, Karen, to eat that donut.
But yeah, I've definitely had a couple of them that they were like, you're in a deficit again, aren't you? And I'm like, oh, I got a little spicy there, didn't I?
That's so funny. So I actively help. I track my wife's cycle because it helps her. Like, it helps her. It also helps me. And because I worked with 1,000 women, I'm very well versed in that information. And periodically, I'll be like, "Are you feeling okay?" Like, I think it's getting close to that time. And then she'll like check her phone, and then the next day she'll be like, "I started my period. I fucking hate you." And I only do it because I know how easy, and like I obviously don't know from a physiological standpoint, but I've seen how easy it is to get like very emotionally wrapped in things. And again, like when you can take a logical step and like step away from it and go, oh yeah, actually like that's why I'm not feeling great right now. You can give
Yeah.
yourself grace and be like, oh, why am I such a piece of shit? Oh, well, actually, it's just that I'm about to, bleed for the next 7 days and be a miserable human being. Like, yeah, I would feel like
Yeah.
crap too.
Yeah.
So again, like same approach. When we can identify the cause of our struggles, it's easier to rationalize and then go, okay, how do I fix this? Do I need to just give myself
Right.
grace right now, or do I need to actually like find out what's wrong, or examine a different approach?
Yeah. Well, and I think since I stopped that last deficit, I made it through the 12 weeks. I kind of hit that point of like, all right, what do I need to do now that I don't Like I feel good about this because I made it through. Like for me, it was like, okay, I leveled up. I don't need to do that again.
Yeah.
How do we not do that?
Yeah.
So a lot of the things that I've been looking up, honestly, comes from a lot of this. And it's been a lot of self-discipline versus self-compassion. Like, where do I go? Where do I have enough discipline that I feel good about striving for things? Because I am still that person. I still like to achieve. I still like to go out for things that challenge me. Because if it challenges me, I'm like, yes, let's do this. Like the competitive side comes
Yeah.
out. But I don't want the competitive side to be an all-time low on the scale anymore. I want it to be like the weight on the bar, like
Yeah.
my squats. Like I want it to be there. So I kind of gotten to that point where like, okay, so I need the discipline for this because I still want to strive, but I need to have enough self-compassion that I don't say I'm a failure because I've put on 5 pounds because I'm trying to increase my squat because that's my new fun challenge for myself. And so that's been a lot of what I've kind of taken a lot of clients through, even as they're going through these things and they hit little obstacles, they hit little points of failure. Like, how did we navigate that? And I'm like, they're not separate things. And I was like, I keep telling them, like, I truly believe for me and my own practice that compassion and discipline, they're on the same continuum. And we
Yeah.
just need to figure out where to slide it. Like maybe I'm 60% compassion, 40% discipline because I've got 2 sick kids at home and Instacart is not here fast enough. Everybody's hungry and I am panicking. Like,
Yeah.
I probably need more compassion in that moment. And I'm going to let, like, if I do this, that, the other, so be it. It wasn't a plan. Who cares? I'll rinse and repeat tomorrow and figure it out.
Yeah.
But that's been a lot of like the things that I've done personally, but a lot of what I've done for clients lately is take the failure out of it. Like we applied the word failure. We applied the guilt and shame. We're choosing that emotion that's going on top of that when we could just give ourselves a pull back on the discipline that kind of put that guilt and shame there and give ourselves a little bit more compassion to be like, whoa, what would I tell my best friend right now? Because I would be like, girl, tomorrow,
Yeah. Yeah.
tomorrow. But that's been like one of my big things with clients is I've been giving them that reflection of, okay, cool. What would you tell your kid?
Yeah.
What would you tell your best friend right now? And I think sometimes when we can, like you were saying, like if we can pull ourselves back and just take a look at things, maybe we won't see it as much of a failure. Maybe we'll kind of be able to like, oh, hey, I didn't need to do that. Like I could just include this. I could change this up here. I can just start fresh tomorrow. Like it's not that big of a deal. Tomorrow's here, just like today was here.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's been like the big thing since the deficit.
Yeah. And I do think that there's a fine line, all to be really clear. I'm sure that, and I totally
Yeah.
understand that that's what you're saying too, is I think there's a fine line behind like giving yourself grace and compassion, and then that sliding in like in either direction too much, right? Like if you're too
Yeah.
disciplined all the time, then when shit hits the fan, like you are so rigid that it's really hard to manage. And the quote that comes to mind is from my buddy Corey. He said this to me a long time ago, and it stuck with me. Is the tree that weathers the storm is the one that bends with the wind. And my interpretation of that is that we need to stay rooted in our goals, but not so rigid that when it's a little bit stormy that we break, and not so flexible that when it's the tiniest of winds we bend over and fall, right? And so it kind of ties in perfectly to what you're saying, because there's definitely time where we need to go, okay, like it's a shit show right now, it's 4:30, I haven't cooked anything, my kids are losing their absolute shit, like I need to just Instacart some food or Uber Eats,
Pizza rolls
McDonald's,
for all.
pizza rolls, right? And then there's times when it's like, yeah, I'm a little tired and I don't feel like going to the gym today. And we probably need to switch back into, hey, like this is a discipline moment of
Yeah.
going, I may not feel like it, but I know this is what my goals require, so I'm going to go anyways, even though I'm tired. And there's still going to be times when that doesn't happen. I know that periodically I deal with insomnia, so I'll be up till 4 o'clock in the morning, and then I'll work my normal work day, and then 8:30 comes when the kids go down, and that's usually when I go to the gym is at night. I'm exhausted. Like, I'm literally beat. And those times I go, I am tired. I'm not going to the gym today because it wouldn't be smart to do that.
Yeah.
It's the difference between that is when I've gotten 7 hours of sleep and I'm going, I don't feel like it, I'm tired. I give myself the discipline talk. And when I'm exhausted because I dealt with insomnia, I go, this is the grace and compassion part that I need to live up to. And it's the same thing with food. Like, listen, you go to a vacation that you have once a year, you eat the food. You just do, and you don't care about it. Even if you come back 5, 6, 10 pounds heavier, it's going to go away if you just get back to normal. The problem is that you assign the guilt. You assign the emotional value to all of that. If you travel for work and you are literally on the road 3 out of 4 weeks and you have conferences every day in a different city or every week in a different city, guess what? You got to make different choices there. Like, that's just the reality. And again, it's that sliding scale of where do I give myself discipline and where do I give myself grace? And it's hard. It's hard because we're all wired differently around those things. And it's not the same as somebody who loves going to the gym. It's not the same as somebody who grew up eating fresh vegetables, lean protein, not eating, Kraft dinner and bologna sandwiches for their main staple of food, as examples, right? So it's not only just like this willpower and discipline aspect. It's environmental. It's how we grew up. It's our own intrinsic motivation. It's how well we've aligned our goals with our values. It's a lot of things that go into all of this, but the ultimate, end all be all is we still need to find that balance of grace, compassion, and discipline throughout our journey.
Well, and every time I have that conversation with someone else, it's always poised differently because of how different we all are. There are some times when I will talk to clients, I'm like, hey, if you are not sure about whether or not you should have more discipline about the workout, go do 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
Your body will tell you what to do then, because you may get in there after 5-10 minutes. And I always joke around, and I'm going to say it anyway, like, for any woman who's already wrestled the sports bra going on, more than likely that 5 minutes is going to turn into the full workout, because you put the spandex on and you're like, I already did the warm up. Like, we're already here.
Well, that's amazing. Obviously, I will never have to experience that, but I've definitely seen my wife. I've definitely seen my wife try to struggle into a sports bra, and I'm just like, that looks like 0% fun.
It's like a straight jacket, but
granted. Last year at the lake, I did try to get into a set of hip waders that was slightly too small, and that's exactly what I imagine it felt like 10 pounds of potatoes going into a 5-pound sack,
That guy in a little coat.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. But seriously, like, there's a lot of people that I will have that conversation with, and I'm like, hey, go do 5-10 minutes. And almost every single time, if I have that conversation with someone, like, okay, 9 times out of 10, they go in, they finish the entire workout, they message me back, they're like, that was amazing. I don't even know why I did that in the beginning. And I was like, it's just a practice. Like, that's all it is.
Yeah.
But then where it does happen to that 1 out of 10, they'll come back to me and like, man, I don't know. I'm like, hey, I've been there too. I've put all the weight on the bar. I've done like 2 or 3 squats. And then I'm like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And I come back in, I put on my sweatpants, I put my slippers on, I sit down with hot cocoa, and I am happy. Like,
yeah.
But at the same time, like, I know I can push when I can push. And so that's one of those big things. But yeah, it happens with training. It happens with food. There are times when I am going to eat, 30 different whole foods all in one day. It's going to look Pinterest worthy. Everything. People are going to be fed. Everybody's going to be happy. We're all going to go to bed in a great way. And then there's other times where the pizza guy is going to greet me by my name because he knows exactly who I am. And we have small talk every time he comes because he's here quite often.
Yeah. And so, I get it.
I mean,
Yeah,
balance.
it is. And it is though, right? It is balance, and that's the hard part with this. And like one of the number one pieces of advice that I give my mom clients is eat the fucking chicken nuggets, dude. Like
So
stop
good.
eating the chicken nuggets, then feeling bad about it, and going and eating like your quote unquote healthy food because you feel bad about eating a chicken nugget. Like sit down with your kids, just eat the chicken nuggets and the French fries, track it or like
Protein.
manage it, and then just move on to your next meal. Like stop trying to make up for it. Stop trying to like feel guilt. Like stop putting that emotional weight on yourself for literally just eating some chicken nuggets. And I mean, honestly, chicken nuggets are delicious. They
Yeah.
are, especially if you get good
Especially if they're in
ones.
dino shape.
Dino shapes, you get
Just
a
saying.
5 point increase on flavor, actually.
It's for real.
But it's the truth, and it's something that like I had to work on too, because even and this like ties back to my own struggles with weight. Is like I would pick at my kids' plates because like I don't like wasting food. Same reasons we talk about childhood stuff where my parents are like, we won't waste food. You know, you can't. We paid good money for that. Like I don't like wasting food. I struggle with
Yeah.
that even when we go out for food. Like if Bianca doesn't eat her whole plate, I'm like, hey, you gonna finish that burger? Can I have a bite? You gonna eat those French fries? You know, and so I really struggle with food waste. And like probably about 6 months ago, I was like, you know, you could just eat the leftovers and not have the full meal. And I was like, oh, that's genius. And then I'm not eating all these extra calories because I like need to eat a meal, quote unquote.
Yeah.
I just get my calories from the crap my kids aren't going to eat.
Yeah.
I'm not wasting food that way. So like the ironic part is we actually literally saved money because we were cooking less, fully knowing the kids aren't going to eat everything on their plate. We don't force them
Yeah.
to. And I actually started losing weight because I was like I wasn't eating their stuff plus eating my plated meal. I would just kind of hang out with everybody while they were eating, and once they were done, I'd finish off what was there. And like again, I'm not even saying that's an ideal habit, to be clear. Like
Yeah.
it's not always an ideal habit to have, but it's certainly
It
better than me.
changes with kids' ages, though.
Yeah, it's certainly better than me like gaining weight because I'm eating their food plus mine because I struggle with food waste. So there's different
Yeah.
ways to address all of these things. And sometimes the answer is you just eat the fucking chicken nuggets, man. Eat them, carry on, go about it your next day. Stop making it into bigger than what it is. It's just breaded chicken, and French fries
Yep.
are delicious, especially if they're dino shaped. Oh,
Seriously, dino nuggies are amazing.
yeah, it's really interesting. And as I've been reflecting on my own goals, because I started about probably this time last year, like July of 2023, I kind of started on the same path again. And as I was approaching this year, I was like, okay, I really got to do something different for myself because, like, one, I don't want to do this forever. Not in the sense that I don't want to do it forever. I don't want to keep on doing the yo-yo. So what is it that I actually need to change? And it's a twofold struggle that I face. That like when I don't see fast weight loss because I'm a fucking human being, it messes with my head. If I'm like, man, the scale's not going down on a regular basis, despite knowing all the things that impact the scale, I get in my head about it. But on the flip side of things, I also am not willing to be in an aggressive deficit that allows for that progress to happen because I hate being in a deficit. So how do I force myself to get to a place where I'm just okay with it? And it took a lot of like, you just have to be okay with this. You just have to be okay with this. Remember, like you hate both of these things and they both have to exist at the same time. So
Yep.
what are you going to do? And it was just, okay, I'm going to lose, half a pound a week, and I have to be okay with that. And if I don't see it on the scale, I have to not let that bother me. And as much as I recommend people to weigh in very frequently, I only weigh in on Fridays because I'm
Yeah.
very consistent throughout the week. Fridays are always my light day.
Well, and the other side of that too, though, just to like put
Yeah.
it out there,
Yeah.
is as a man versus a woman, like with all the different hormone fluctuations
Yes.
that women have, it might be a little bit more challenging to weigh weekly.
Yes.
And some of the women that I work with, I actually make the recommendation, if you don't want to weigh every day, weigh once a month.
Yeah.
Like we'll see way more in that once a month than
Yeah.
we will in that possibility of the weekly. And so I know it kind of feels like extremes, but then at least if it's once a month, then it's at that same point in a woman's cycle. So
Yeah.
you're always comparing the apples to apples. versus like where you can do it on every Friday and you're probably going to get apples to apples because of the hormones.
Yeah.
So at least that way it does work. But yeah, no, I like when people, hey, if you've got head games with the scale, I'm going to tell you, here's the best way you'll see it. But if you can like tough it out and not see it for a month and just trust it, this is what you'll see. And
Yeah.
so I kind of provide people like,
Yeah. And I do agree with that approach. Like,
red or blue pill.
and I do agree with that approach, to be clear. Like, I am very lucky
Yeah.
in the sense that I don't experience massive weight fluctuations. I eat fairly consistently. Nicole's like, fuck you, you're cool, I'm out. Like, that is the bare bones of it too, is it's not always an approach that I would recommend with my clients. It's an approach that works for me. So anybody that's listening, like,
Yeah.
this is an approach that works for me, and that's what I'm talking about right now. It's not necessarily what's going to be best
Yeah.
for you. I have clients who weigh absolutely every single day, and they are able to separate from that because they can look at the last day and go, oh yeah, I trained. Oh yeah, I had more sodium. Oh yeah, I had more carbs. Oh yeah, I didn't have a bowel movement. Like, yeah, the scale's going to be up. Whereas for me, like, I can logically put all of those things together, but it's still a struggle and it causes me to potentially backpedal. So the once a week on Fridays, when I know that I've been consistent from at least Sunday to Friday morning,
Yeah.
I will generally see the progress that I'm looking for. When I weigh daily and see those ups and downs, even though I understand it, it's still a struggle for me to adhere the same way. When I lost most of my weight initially, this is 12 years ago, I was losing, even though I lost, like, math-wise, I was losing 11 pounds a month, 11, 12 pounds a month. I was actually losing closer to 15 or 16 because I would lose a bunch of weight, binge, gain it back, lose a bunch of weight, binge, gain it back. So I would literally see scale weight loss daily because I was so consistent when I was on that I could see, like, the 0.2, the 0.4. When you're losing 2 pounds a week, you can see you can see that 0.3 when you're that consistent. Or when you're losing 3 pounds a week, you can see it daily.
Yeah.
I'm not recommending that, to be clear. Like, anybody that's listening, that's not a sustainable rate of weight loss. But because I tied all of my progress to that number when I was first losing, that's what I expect now, even though I'm educated, even though, like, all those things I know about, you know?
Well, and that goes back to the challenge side. Like, for me, I had to change my challenge because I saw that it was almost like a game to me, like a competition of,
Yeah.
oh, okay, what's it say today? Like, did I do good yesterday? And
Yeah.
that was where my brain went. But now I do one of these and I'm like, this is how much of this did I go through yesterday?
Yeah.
And I tether it all to hydration balance. Like, it's all a hydration game. Like, we're so much water. That's what this is telling me.
Yeah.
Did
What's
I
that?
actually drink my water?
We are 99% waters. We're basically just cucumbers with anxiety, something like that. Like, but no, and like, so, my approach personally, again, is that I do it that way. It's what works for me. And I have clients that weigh daily and they have no problems rationalizing it. I have clients that weigh once a week and they do well with it. Same thing. They usually do it on Fridays because it works for them. And I have clients that don't weigh at all.
Find your own way through.
Yeah, we use photos, we use all these other different measures of progress because no matter what we do, no matter how much education, no matter how much we talk about the things that impact the scale, which is like, did you blink twice and look at the moon last night? Like, there's just no getting through that barrier. So not weighing is the way that they stay consistent. So, again, like, coming back to how I've tackled this, like, one, it was a big acceptance on, like, I'm a human being. It's okay that I've regained the weight. I need to address why I've regained the weight. Is it emotional coping mechanisms? Is it poor sleep patterns? Is it food environment? Like, is it all these things? In my approach, what do I need to change? So one, it was a more realistic fat loss target, not trying to lose 3 pounds a week, right? The other one was eating the chicken nuggets, man. We were kind of talking about, like, going and reminding myself that it's not the chicken nuggets that are probably causing the problem, just like whether or not you weigh your broccoli cooked, raw, steamed, frozen, like, that's not the issue. It's all the other things, right? It's eating peanut butter out of the jar with a spoon without managing that. It's those types of things I had to and have to address. Nicole's like, I have to go, I feel attacked. And, like, that is part of my approach right now. And part of it is, instead of going, okay, I'm training 5 times a week, I'm creating a range of success for myself that looks like 2 to 5 times a week of going to the gym. And when I go twice a week, because I know my week is hectic, I do cardio and I lift. And that's success and that's fantastic. And on less busy weeks where I can do 5 days, I do 3 weightlifting sessions and I do 2 cardio sessions. And I'm miserable during the cardio because I hate it. But instead of creating this all or nothing approach for myself, I've had to step back and really find flexibility in the process, because at least at the core of it, I do understand that it all works as
Yeah.
long as you're consistent. So my goal
Right.
has not been to lose crazy amounts of weight. My goal has not been to do crazy training sessions. My goal has just been to show up as consistently as possible for as long as that I can. And some days it means I'm in a deficit, and some days it means I'm at maintenance, and some days I'm in a small surplus, and some days I train, and some days I don't, and sometimes I sleep well, and sometimes, like, I just give myself grace on all of the above, but then still push myself to get there when I know that I need to, and I'm trying to make excuses for myself.
Yeah. I found the mute button. Of course, it's not
It's
on the
fine.
dog.
It's fine. No, we don't need more. I like it. It adds character to the show. As if,
But
as
you know,
if this
it's.
isn't enough.
But I think that that's on the maintenance side too. It's like it's learning the little things of course correction, like the little things that I want to be true. For me, I give myself a range with steps. I enjoy walking. I feel better when I go for a walk.
Yeah.
I feel better when I leave the house and go outside. But I can't say 10,000. I can't say 15,000.
Yeah.
I have to say 5,000 to 10,000. Depending on the day. Is it raining? Do you feel like it? Like, is your book good enough to actually listen to? Like, it's all a range.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is it. And again, this all varies depending on who you are as an individual. I have very type A clients who need the set daily targets, and that's what helps them do the thing. Like, I'll give you an example. A client who goes, "Hey, when should I take my creatine?" And the first question I ask is not anything other than, if I tell you that it doesn't matter, are you going to stop taking your creatine? And if I tell you that it does matter, are you going to stop taking your creatine? Because people push back against stuff. And the person who goes, "No, if I can optimize it, I will." Cool, then it doesn't matter when you take your creatine, take it when it's easiest for you. The person that says yes to either of those questions goes, at 4 o'clock after your workout, when the sun is in its highest peak of the day, and you've drinking exactly 1.28 gallons of water, you should take your creatine, and it has to be exactly 3.2 grams. Like, obviously, I'm just exaggerating here, folks. I'm just kidding, because humor is life is way too fucked up to not have some humor. It really depends on the person. Some people need the daily target, and some people need the flexibility. And it's important to remember that who you are has served you up until this point too. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to lean into some of those tendencies that will serve you in the long run. If it's that you get a little neurotic about eating a protein shake post-workout, then great. Maybe that's what helps you get your protein in. But if that's the thing where you're like, "Oh my God, I failed. I'm just going to overeat because screw it, I didn't get my protein within 30 seconds of finishing my last rep," that's where we need to address those things on an individual level. So I think it's important to step back if you're listening to this and just recognize that oh man, another Corey quote. No way is the way, right? And it's a Bruce Lee quote, actually, is that there is no one way. There's only what works for you as an individual. So when you're listening to us talk about this stuff, just remember that we're talking from our own experiences. We are talking from a coaching experience too, but what Nicole does is still different from what I do, even though we align pretty heavily on our coaching principles and our values and our ethos with all of this. She still does things differently than I do, and I do things differently than her, because it's what works for us as individuals. And you need to figure out what works best for you as an individual, and that's going to vary.
Oh, a lot. You got to mess around and find out.
Yeah, and it's the graph, right? Like, the more you fuck around, the more you find out.
See, I'm so used to not cussing because most of my videos are to clients, so like I forgot. Oh.
I just,
No,
I can't do it. I have such a professional level work work that I do that I
Yeah.
need this to be like who I am, and I can't
Oh
hide
no,
that.
I think it's more like for me because it's us getting back to it after a year. I like I guess I filtered myself.
Yeah, that's valid.
I have the
Um,
cuss filter on.
take it off, take it off, take it off. Listen,
Fucking A.
this has been a really good conversation. We're gonna wrap it up here on the note of cuss words. You can find me on Instagram at Coach Derek S. Nicole, where can people find you?
On Instagram as well. Oh gosh, is there dots in it? Look, I don't even remember.
We'll,
Hold up.
we'll put it in the show notes. We'll put it in the show
I
notes.
know, I don't remember. It's been a year. No, it is. Nicole.m.dory. That's what I am.
And then Nicole has a blog too. It's alwaysonmymind.com, if I recall.
Or dot blog, yeah.
Blog. Alwaysonmymind.blog. And I am coachderek.ca because I'm Canadian, so I'm the gangster.ca. Listen, we're coming back next week with a special guest. I'm really excited to have that conversation. So tune in, and I promise you, no guarantees at all about anything.
Yeah, no expectations.
Well,
Can't let anybody down if there was nothing to expect. Except my dogs.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.